Okay, everybody, we got some new laws to talk about that have gone into effect here in the state of Nevada that are going to be, or that can be impactful for those of you that are either visiting or living here in the state. So I'm filming this in the southwest part of the Vegas Valley right now at James Regional Sports Complex. So I'm in this little carve-out section. Playground's right over there. Soccer games are going on over there, so you might hear some people screaming and cheering in the background here, but we're gonna make it work. Got the sun right in my eyes. So, hey, sun's going down, a little cold today, by Vegas standards anyway, but we're gonna go ahead and get this filmed and go through these new laws and things that have changed. Some of these are things that were passed in the 2023 legislative session. I did a video about the new laws in 2023, but sometimes laws don't go into effect either right away or they don't go into effect fully until the following year. So here in 2024, that's what we're talking about. We're definitely talking about the Clark County Ordinance about blocking pedestrian bridge walkways. I'll share some things with you surrounding the issue that no politician or government official is going to say publicly. No other big Vegas content creator is going to be able to share this with you. Things that just I've learned from being here on the ground level and people I've talked to. So going through my notes here, show you guys a little bit of a background with Nevada, because keep in mind, when it comes to laws getting passed here in Nevada, Nevada's been a swing state for decades. For decades, it's been a swing state, arguably the most libertarian state in the U.S. So the government here was split from 93 to 2014. So for 22 years, neither party, Democrat or Republican, had the majority control of the state. Now, the Republicans did get a majority of control for 2 years. Then it went back to split for 2 more. Then the Democrats had majority control for 4 years here in Nevada before going back to being split like it is now. So the current governor is Joe Lombardo, and before he was governor, though, he was the sheriff right here in Clark County for 8 years. So in the legislative session, Lombardo signed 536 bills into law, but he did set a record by vetoing 75. That was a record here in Nevada. And 43 on the last day of the session, he vetoed before they could automatically become law. So it's very different from the previous governor, Sisolak, who his first session, he signed 638 new bills into law, and he vetoed at just 3. That was back when the Democrats had the majority. The first thing we'll talk about here is Nevada did a change to solitary confinement. So solitary confinement for prisoners used to be up to 30 days, but that's now changed to limit to 15 days. And they cannot be put into solitary confinement within 90 days of their release from the prison. The new law requires solitary confinement to only be used as a last resort in the least restrictive manner and for the shortest period of time safely possible. Inmates with serious mental illness or other significant mental impairment are also not to be isolated unless a healthcare provider orders it. This change is something that has been in the works since 2017, but did not become law until just recently. Nevada jails must create methods for offenders to vote, including same-day voter registration. The ACLU was a big proponent of this law, and their reasoning was that, since people are being held while waiting to go to trial, they have not been found guilty of committing any crime, so they should not have their right to vote be taken away while they're still awaiting their trial. State employees are now given 8 weeks of paid family leave each year. If you have jury duty in Nevada, you used to only get $40 per day, but now you get $65 each day after the second day of jury selection or upon being sworn in as a juror, whichever is first. So hey, you can make some more money doing jury duty now. Tests for breast cancer must now be fully covered by insurance, which includes imaging tests and diagnostic imaging tests. This means that there will be no deductible and no copay. Medicaid coverage for postpartum care has changed from 60 days to a full year. It now includes delivery complications, postpartum depression, other issues that could decrease pregnancy-related fatalities. Nevada became the 7th state to allow human composting after a person's death. So instead of burial or cremation, people can now elect to have their remains organically disposed of by being turned into soil. The entire process takes about 45 days, and each person typically amounts to about 200 to 300 pounds of soil. A new law was passed to help with police interactions with those who have neurodivergent needs, including those who are deaf, hard of hearing, autistic, or have a language disorder. The bill requires the DMV to put a flag symbol on the person's driver's license to indicate to the officer that a communication need exists. This will only be done if the person makes the request at the DMV and has proper documentation. So I have to give you guys a follow-up of some of those laws that have gone into effect. There's obviously a whole bunch more, but I don't have that much time to cover every single one in great detail. Talking about the Clark County Ordinance on blocking pedestrian bridges. So this did pass, and this was passed unanimously by the Clark County Commission here. Now keep in mind, the pedestrian bridges they're talking about, these are all in the county, unincorporated county area. Okay, this is not the city of Las Vegas, all right? So the county commission, the 7 Clark County commissioners, they're the ones governing this, and they're the ones who voted on this. So some people are against it, right, based on the First Amendment. The ACLU is already, if they haven't sued yet, they're planning to, on it being passed. But others support it for really 2 reasons I saw people saying on social media, because they think it gives the police the ability to crack down on, the unlicensed street vendors or people out there pulling scams, or they also think it'll help with moving homeless people being on the strip. Now, I can see why on the surface people would believe that, but I'll share with you what I've learned over the years and see if I can provide, potentially different perspective. So as far as trying to stop the unlicensed vendors or, the people out there running scams like the ball in the cup game that I've shown you guys here on this channel before, or 3-card Monte, whichever scam is taking place, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department already works to prevent that. So that's something that's already, that they're aware of and that they do. Now, an issue they're having, and this is with many law enforcement agencies across the country, is just the amount of officers they have. So if you don't have enough officers, and that limits how much they can actually do to minimize those situations over on the strip. And there's a local article that I referenced in a previous video that came out in early 2022, stating the department has been losing 200 officers per year since 2016.
Here in Las Vegas and in different places around the country, there is no shortage of officer shortages. Last year, Metro Police Sheriff Kevin McMahill noted that his agency was down about 300 officers.
This is a real issue for us.
Obviously, they've been recruiting and trying to get those numbers back up, but still, when the department is shorthanded, they're only going to have so much to work with right now to try to mitigate that situation, and passing an ordinance like this is not going to give them more officers. So they're already working towards that as it is. Now, another thing is with the law, remember, any law is only as good as its ability to be enforced. So with a short, if you don't have enough officers, where are they going to pull the officers from to be able to enforce this consistently on a year-round basis? And for those who said this gives police the ability to move homeless people from walkways, I really question that, and I'll tell you why. So one of the things that I do is I regularly talk with first responders and people who work in security and other jobs that are on the ground level who deal with these situations firsthand. I'll talk to people when I'm just out and about, either running errands around town, if it's places I visit somewhat frequently. Sometimes I'll just talk to cashiers or employees if I see something that's locked away that didn't used to be. I did that once at a store. I asked the guy, I was like, how long have you been working here? And he said, 7 years. And I said, I know some more stuff is locked away than it used to be a few years ago. So you guys seeing more theft? And he's like, yeah. I mean, you might be surprised if people just flat out tell you. So as it pertains to this situation, I was told by law enforcement about a year ago that they are not allowed to move any homeless people from the sidewalk unless they are blocking the walkway. And as I was preparing my notes for this, made me wonder why a separate ordinance would be needed if the police already have the ability to do that in the first place. When you see people sleeping along the walkways, as I've seen many times walking the strip, I'm sure many of you have as well, depending on how many times you've been to Las Vegas and been to the strip, I was told that they can't do anything about that either because people can still walk around them, and it's technically not illegal to be sleeping in public. And I even showed this picture and video to an officer who worked the strip area of a guy sleeping in the median. He was sleeping in the median between the Mirage Volcano and the Venetian as traffic is going by. And I asked him, I said, can the police, would they be able to move this guy who's, just asleep there in the median as traffic's going by on Las Vegas Boulevard? And he said, no, he said, probably not, because he's not doing anything. Now I look at that though, and I see how narrow the median is and where he's at, and I think, what if this guy's waking up and he rolls over, stumbles into the street, and gets himself injured or gets himself killed, or in doing that, a driver swerves, resulting in an accident that gets other people injured or killed. And because, sleeping in the median of a major road is very much not normal behavior, I'd be concerned about the guy's mental state and any substances he may have put into his body, because that could elevate the risk of the example I just gave. So on Clark County's own Twitter page last year, they posted a video showing social workers partnering with Metro to offer help to homeless people on the Strip. Now the video is meant to show that the county is making an effort to help, and it definitely does show that. But if the person refuses help, then that is the end of the conversation. That's something you're not going to see in the video, right? That's something, no government official is going to tell you that, right? They're not going to publicize that aspect of it. So I say all of that because I'm uncertain that this ordinance will change anything as far as how the police handle issues on the Strip with scammers or with the homeless population. And I saw another article mention that there's been concerns for some time over the growing number of tourists visiting as a reason to have this ordinance. What I thought was interesting was when I went back to look at the tourist numbers that have been reported year by year for Las Vegas, Vegas crossed over 40 million people for the first time in 2014 and actually hit over 41 million that year. And then for 5 years in a row after that, Las Vegas had over 42 million people visit each year. Vegas visitor numbers have been climbing back since COVID, and we might hit 40 million in 2023. The December numbers are not out yet as of the filming of this video. We might just barely cross over 40 million people in 2023. But regardless of that, we've got a long way to go until we hit 5 years in a row of 42 plus million people coming here to Las Vegas. When I hear the part about the growing number of tourists, I'm thinking, okay, well, why wasn't anything done about this half a decade ago when the numbers were at peak levels, if that's the real reason that this is being pushed? So I found it interesting just looking at the numbers to see the difference between 5 to 8 years ago, between the last few years, and using that as part of the justification. Understand too that the intention of this ordinance is not to have undercover cops like waiting right at every spot on the bridge and just go and like arrest anyone who stops to take a photo. That's not the intention of the ordinance. That would not be a good use of it. That would not be a good look for Las Vegas. That would be terrible publicity, for anything like that. That's not what it's going to be. Okay, and I really doubt that the majority of tourists are even going to notice much of a change when they're here on vacation. And most tourists won't even know this ordinance exists. No matter how many people see this video, I doubt the majority of people coming to Vegas in 2024 and beyond are even going to know about this local ordinance when they come here for their vacation. Numerous news articles on this ordinance did not mention the elephant in the room for why this is being done. That's really because of F1. The only article I saw that did mention that was on casino.org. It was the only one I saw. Because to put it bluntly, F1 is the 800-pound gorilla. I mean, if you ever look at the definition, I'll put it on the screen. You ever look at the definition of 800-pound gorilla? It says one that is dominating or uncontrollable because of great size or power. And that fits F1 and Liberty Media so well as far as how they came in here to the Vegas Valley. Because they came in there in their first year and were able to do almost whatever they wanted. So, I mean, everything from getting tax money up front to pay for first responders, which is not normal for an event here, to colossal levels of construction in such a short time that negatively impacted millions of people, to pushing a fee onto restaurants and clubs along the track, to causing local businesses to collectively lose tens of millions of dollars while asking for an extra $40 million of tax money to pay for the event. And immediately after the race is over, this ordinance gets proposed and then unanimously approved by the Clark County Commission. So regardless of where you stand on F1 and Liberty Media, I think we can all agree that they have an incredible amount of power and influence to be able to come into the entertainment capital of the world and do what they did, the way they did it, and to get local politicians to agree to it. Those are the real influencers. That kind of money, that's real influence. And, I think about this. What impact is this ordinance going to have going forward? I think the only time that I can think of this right now getting enforced is really going to be for F1. F1 and any other large event that shuts down the Strip in the future. Because I don't see how there's enough officers to consistently enforce this on a year-round basis by posting police on the bridges all day and all night. There may be times when they're able to target the bridges for a period of time if they think too many issues have been happening on them, and they'll put more officers and more resources and assign people temporarily to try to bring it back down to a lower level of issues. but I'm doubtful it's going to be able to be year-round on a consistent basis just because of everything I said earlier. That's how I think this is going to happen with the ordinance. Most people said they're not going to notice it. The tourists won't realize it. It's really something that's just for F1. That's basically that's how I look at this. I mean, if there's something I missed, you know, please feel free to share it. I'm as human as anyone else, so there could be some aspects that I overlooked of this whole thing. But I mean, that really was the driving force behind this ordinance. How it gets enforced going forward, I'm curious to see how it works out, and particularly as F1 comes to town again in 2024. So I'm curious to see the enforcement between the local police, the private security, and, you know, just how smoothly that interaction winds up going. Maybe it'll go better than we think. But that's really, as I can see, as far as a full analysis that I can give on the situation and other laws we have coming here, or other laws that are now in effect in 2024. So something I missed, please share it. Happy to hear it down in the comments section. I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for being so awesome. I'm Jacob, and this is My Life in Vegas.